Crafty Thinking. If you are at this panel, it is because you either already have a business or you're thinking about starting a business. So what we do is we just do a strict Q&A. So because if you're here, it means you have questions. So we're going to go down the line, introduce ourselves, just do a quick 2 minutes on who we are, what we do, and then I'm going to open it up to the floor. So if you have, if you picked up one of our little cards, you may have written some questions down, and we have come with questions. Ask them. We will answer them to the best of our knowledge. So I am Toni. I have my own small business for about 5 years now. I quilt and make pillows. About a year ago, Nicole and I got together and we decided that we wanted to share our knowledge of business and conventions with other people, so we started Craft Hackers, a site that promotes handmade, encourages handmade, and educates the public, as well as being a support network for people that want to start their own small businesses.
As Toni mentioned, hi, my name is Nicole. I've been doing the convention team with Toni for about 5 years as well now, and I went full-time doing it. Actually, last year at AwesomeCon, that was my debut, starting it full-time. I make my own handmade crocheted plushes and dolls and things of that nature, as well as a couple little odds and end crafts, and it's called Craftigurumi. And I have a experience with art. I've worked in all mediums. I actually have a degree in studio art, and I have worked every position in retail, from sales associate up to store manager level. And I was the running merchandising manager for a Hallmark store location for several years. So that's one of the things I help bring to people that join our Craft Hackers membership is helping you with your merchandise display and making it look professional and neat and not overcluttered.
My name is Liz Reed. I am the co-creator of the webcomic Cuddles and Rage. And with the comic, we're writers, illustrators, sculptors. It's all mixed media. I've been doing that for about 6 years now. And also last year at this panel, I announced that I was leaving my day job to pursue Cuddles and Rage full time. And I have since left, and I have since got like some deals that will cover me for the next couple of years to keep going. So it's been really successful.
Hi, I'm Rachel Kelly. I'm the author of the Color Roll book series, and together with my husband, we run Color Roll Books, which is not just a book series now. It's expanded into visual arts, so we have illustrated editions. We're getting ready to start a comic. We also have prints done by, we work with about 12 different artists. And we currently live in an RV full-time on the road. We travel to about 50 conventions this year. We'll do another 50 next year on the West Coast. So we are very heavily into the convention scene, so we've seen a lot, I think, and this has been happening since January, but I've been writing since about 2009, but really went full-time with it starting in January of this year.
Fantastic. Okay, so any question is fair game. So I'll open it to the floor. Oh, hands please. Yes, ma'am. And so how to take what you love to do and then turn it into making money into a business is your question. So for me, it was, I had gone through a divorce, and so I needed to pick up a hobby, so I started quilting. So I'm quilting, and I belong to a site called Sprite Stitch, which is a group of cross-stitch people that we love video games. And I had done a swap, and I made my first link holding a Triforce quilt, and sent it to the person, and everyone on the site goes, I want to buy one. I want to buy one. Where can I get it? I want to buy one. I went, wait, I can make money? I can sell? Oh, okay. So for me, it was just kind of falling into it.
Yeah, it wasn't too different for me, unfortunately. I've been crocheting for about 11 years now, and about 6 years past, I was just bored. I got tired of making scarves and sweaters and blankets and throws and what have you that most things have, and I was looking for something different, and I had seen on a couple of sites people making plush out of it. Most of them didn't really appeal to me for my own personal taste, so I got a book from a store about how you make plush, and it gives you, your basic like circle and tube sort of pattern, so you can get an idea on how plush is made. And I took that knowledge and started designing my own stuff, sharing it with my friends, and then being like, oh, Nicole, this stuff is so great, would you want to sell it? And I was like, okay, you guys are my friends and you lie to me all the time, so I really appreciate it, but And then my sister was at a convention, and she was like, well, if you have some that you've just made, because I was making them for fun for myself, she was like, bring them in, and this way I can get some reception feedback for you. I'm like, oh, that's perfect, thank you so much. So I gave them, and I think of the like 20 dolls that I gave her that I had made, she sold 12 or 13 of them that weekend. And that was my first, oh, there actually is a reception for this, so I need to start pursuing it. And then from there, it's just working on getting myself out there, like making sure I had a gallery page where people could see my stuff, and then start looking into what conventions fit the sort of market that my dolls and plush and things of that nature are going to appeal to.
So I think for me, my business started out as just like an outlet after work to just start creating something, and then it slowly grew into something larger. But I think to break it down in terms of like, if you already know that you have a specific hobby, I don't want to say hobby, but craft or whatever, that you want to grow into your full-time business, I think, you know, whatever you're doing, there's a marketplace for it. It's just a matter of finding it and connecting with the right people. And I think Rachel can probably speak really more to this, as we just met, so maybe I'm wrong, but I think what it comes down to is if you want to leave your job and start a business, you have to decide like what in your life right now you want to sacrifice. Yep. And so for me, it took about 5 years to leave that because, I don't know, I like where I live. DC is expensive. So I had to get things in place before I could leave my job. And for me, that was getting an agent to be my voice and connecting me with other people who would invest in our brand. And so I think there are so many different ways to do it, and it just depends on like figuring out that price range and what works for you to live off of it. And if you just want to do it as a side job and not do it as your full-time gig and just make money off it, I think the answer is finding your audience, connecting with them, finding the influencers like within that scene. So if you are a freelance illustrator and you want to get your work in front of gallery shows, or you want to get your work in front of like, you know, other comic creators, then find the big people that you admire and find a way to connect with them in a genuine way, and then they're going to spread the word about your work, and it kind of just grows organically from there.
I worked with my husband. He's been self-employed probably since a few years after we were married, but he managed stock portfolios, and he was basically financial services in every realm. And so I was like office administrator, so I did a lot of the back office things, and I called clients, and I took down insurance information, I made trades, and I hated it so much. But I tried to support him, and I had currently 4 kids under the age of 10. And so I really wanted something for myself, and so I just, I don't know, I just got the idea one day that I was going to write a book. And I started, and I have not stopped since, and I just fell in love with it right away. So it was kind of one of those, like, I need something for myself. And so now he works for me.
All right. Next, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, you spoke about agents.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a writer myself, so I consistently to write conferences. And, you know, a lot of code is, you know, that's a very key asset. How does one go about getting an agent from a writer?
That is a great question, and the way that I like got the hot tip on how to find ours was, I'm gonna butcher his name, so please shout out and correct me if I get this wrong. He's an author, David Baladucci, am I saying that right? You know, he's like New York Times bestselling author. And it was at my job that I was working at, they had creative speakers, and so he came and talked, and he talked about how, you know, this is like pre-internet when he started writing. And what he would do is he would go into like his favorite books, these authors that you love. So going back to like the people that you see as your mentors, and he would go in the front of the book and he'd see who they thanked. And more than likely they'd be an agent, because of course, like, we all so thankful to agents, good ones. And so he would then reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm a writer, here's my manuscript. And so he reached out to a bunch of people, and then he finally connected with one. And he was a lawyer at this time, so like, and he had a family. So by day, he would do the law thing and then put his kids to bed at night and then write to these agents at night. And so I took that note, and I found a comic creator that I admired, and then I went to her contact page and found out who her agent was. And, you know, I did it with a couple of other people too, but I really connected with her agent, he connected with us, because it's a partnership. I mean, like, you have to be prepared to be rejected by agents, publishers, whoever, and that's just part of the game. Like, we were rejected by a lot of people, but it's the one person who says yes to you and you gel with. You can always say no, you know, make sure you connect with the person. Like, that's the person who's gonna carry you. And that's really what it is, just kind of figuring out how other people do it. Like, that's why Craft Hackers is great, because it kind of like opens that door for you if you're kind of shy and you don't really feel comfortable to reaching out to strangers. And like, here's a whole community where they've kind of already like figured it out and are prepared to share with you.
Fantastic. Right. Yes, ma'am.
Can you share some of your like greatest successes and biggest mistakes for like pros and cons of what people should watch out for when they're first starting a business?
Oh, that's a great question. It's for me, successes are finding my niche. So, and I actually discovered that early on, thank goodness. My niche was the comic book and video game conventions with pop culture, comic book, video game quilts. And I think whenever Nicole told me to make the TARDIS quilt, that was, I'm like, I had never seen Doctor Who, and it was our third convention, and all these people keep coming up going, do you have a TARDIS quilt? Do you have a TARDIS quilt? I'm like, okay, I have to watch the show, I have to make this quilt. And that, for me, exploded everywhere. And now, people come to a convention for the first time, and if I have my TARDIS quilt hanging, they're going, I know you. I know who you are. And so that's the biggest thing. For things you learn, not everything that you make and do is going to be successful. It is learning from those mistakes. If you have seen me over the past 5 years of conventions, my first convention was Baltimore Comic Con 5 years ago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I had half that stuff. And it's like the perler stuff that does not go with quilts.
Yeah.
So it's finding the line, and just don't be discouraged, because everyone is going to have setbacks, and that's the biggest thing. Is it doesn't matter what problems you have, overcoming it.
For me, I think, just especially speaking as an artist background, the most flattering thing has been people that, now that I've been doing this for several years, I have people that come and seek me out at conventions, and they're like starting to build collections of my dolls, or they're coming back looking like for a specific item, or to ask me to make something. And I think it was last year when we were at MagFest that happened to me for the first time, and I turned to Toni and I'm like, I'm having a very strange emotion right now. I'm flattered and shocked and like just really in awe, and I don't know how to process this. And it was just probably the most phenomenal experience for me as a creator and an artist, to have that sort of appreciation and love for my work, that people are coming back and seeking me out and knowing they like the things that I make, and just connecting with them on that level. I mean, there's been nothing to equal that for me. And I would say something to keep in mind, and I thought about this when she mentioned with the agent stuff, is when you apply to conventions, even if you do your best to do your research and think you found one that fits you, don't let one bad convention completely derail you. You know, don't let, like, I did a convention, I think it was like my third one in, and my last two had been great. I had like phenomenal response to everything, did well with my sales, and then the one after that, I barely covered my table costs, but it fit the category that, you know, my stuff appeals to, and I'm like, what the heck happened with this convention? Mm-hmm. And you can't let those get you down. You have to keep moving past that. You have to like look and try and find out what was off that maybe you didn't realize about the convention until you got there, or maybe it didn't have the attendance that, like, the amount of foot traffic that you need coming past. Just whatever. Don't take it as, this is the worst, clearly no one ever liked my stuff, I'm going to quit right now. Don't do that. Just take it and use it as a learning experience. And I would say that having those things, you know, you can really turn around some of those bad experiences and choices that you made and grow from them.
Yeah, and I would just say real quickly, I guess like the highest point for us was connecting with hellgiggles.com, which is a site founded by Zoe Deschanel. When we connected with them 4 years ago when they first launched, we would make diorama posts for them every Friday, and they kind of like built our audience for us, and we got so much exposure, and that's what opened doors for us to do like gallery shows and to get offers from like people like advertising agencies to do work with them. So I definitely think that connecting with them was such a high point, because it was just like, oh man, somebody we admire is admiring our work, and it just feels so good. It gives you chills. And then I think, you know, on the other side of the conversation is No matter what you create, there will be somebody who just doesn't get it, and they'll be totally vocal about it. And you kind of just have to have like a sense of humor. Like for our stuff, you know, doing a comic based on, you know, macro photography with sculptures, people aren't gonna get it. But you have to realize that you're starting out new and you're building a following, and eventually the people that do get it, they're gonna be the people that like champion for you and help you stand out from the rest.
Or like the ones that look at your stuff and go, oh, I can do that.
Just smile.
Smile, pat
okay.
on the back.
Probably, so our very first convention was our biggest flop. We did Salt Lake Comic Con last year, and there's like over 100,000 people that go through the doors in Salt Lake Comic Con, and we sold like 50 books, and that was it. It was like, what? You know? But that was our very first experience with the convention. So you can imagine like how deterred we felt. But we didn't stop, and we immediately expanded our product line and said, how are we going to change this? And that followed our greatest success, which was the illustrated editions of the books. And two reasons that was a big success. One is I'm a hardcore reader, and I thought, like, hardcore readers don't care about pictures, right? Right? Because my imagination works just fine, thank you. So when my husband suggested the illustrated editions, I was like, well, we don't have a big enough following for people to care about getting an illustrated edition, because I figured it was like a collector's item. You're already a fan, you want more of the series, so you're going to buy this illustrated edition. And so we did this Kickstarter project, and I worked my butt off on it, but I sure didn't believe in the product that we were going to be selling. He was just so adamant that people wanted pictures. We're going to conventions, it's a visual place, people want pictures. We funded our Kickstarter, and immediately got to work on the illustrated editions. And I've been floored by the number of people who will get into the series through the illustrated editions. So I do about half and half sales of illustrated versus original editions. And we have, since September of last year, I would say quadrupled our revenue per show, just based on the illustrations and the artists, the extra art that we offer now. We have big bookmarks and metal prints that we offer that has allowed us to continue to go to conventions, because books are hard at conventions to sell, because whereas a visual piece of art, people can decide I either like that or I don't. With a book, you have to convince them that what they're going to get is something they're going to like. And so you always have to expect that you're going to have less sales than like the visual artist next to you. And the only way to really overcome that is to expand your product line so that you can continue to do conventions and make money each time, or at least have enough to, for us in our case, get from one convention to the next. Since we travel so much and this is what we do full time, we break even pretty much every show. Even with that quadruple, but at least we're not losing money. So that's awesome.
So was that your pro and your con all rolled up into one long story?
Yeah, well, the con was that the very first convention we ever did, that should have been an amazing convention. You would think it's going to have so many people, but we've learned that it's not about the size, it's about the demographic, it's about who is going to be at that show. And that is a hard lesson to learn. You just keep wanting to go back, oh, there's more people. Or you go back to like, where's my booth located? The reason I didn't make sales is because my booth isn't in a good place, but that's just bullcrap. So yeah, you know, like what matters is getting in the right convention, in the right demographic, in the right place.
Yeah. And Rachel brought up a good point I do want to point out, is that your product line, whether you do conventions, online, brick and mortar store, you always have to be working and expanding on your product line. The moment that you sit back is the moment you go down the tube. You always have to be thinking and engineering and moving forward. It's if you see me I have 14 conventions this year with handmade stuff. If just from one convention to the next, I don't have the same table layout, I don't have the same products. I'm changing every single convention, and that's how you stay ahead. So okay.
And it's just one more point to that is like I know for me, like I like to be a homebody, so I'm not like a convention warrior. So then I think on that side, then really focus on who you can connect with online, and listen to website for podcasts like Smart Passive Income. Like those guys will give you like all these hot tips that will work for you, so that if you're like, oh man, my schedule doesn't allow for me to travel that much, there's still a way.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. Yeah.
Aside from expanding your product line and getting into different things, are there any other essential or helpful tips to help you get things out there, or like time organization
Right.
overwhelmed.
So, two big things, and I know Liz is a big proponent, and she kept getting on me last year. Social media, and that's, she was big, you were at the panel last year, that's all she
That
had.
was my panel yesterday.
Oh, you did social
I
media?
hosted it, yeah.
So, social media, networking. Those two things, even with the time, with everything else, if you have your networking and you have your social media, almost everything else can, because if you have networking, you can ask people, you can talk to people, you can figure things out. You have social media, you can reach your audience. And that, you know, and get your audience engaged, which is exactly what we're doing right now with the Hang With app, is we are reaching our audience and our social media by doing that.
I'd say another little just thing on that doesn't touch that topic as far as especially your online presence, and this is something that I have a hard time with too, is working on the pictures. If it's something that you make, making sure that you take good photos. Even though I am not a photographer, I suck at it, so it's really hard for me to make sure like I get a good lighting and your stuff is presented well when it's online, because just having a picture of it on there, who cares? There's billions and trillions upon photos there online. You want to make sure that when you're putting your stuff out there, it has the best possible look to it, and that can affect a lot how much traffic you're going to get as well. Because if you think about it, you see a picture, it's like, oh, this looks okay, but oh, this picture looks really good, and they could almost be the exact same product, but one's just a better picture and was staged better and has better lighting.
I'm with Liz. Like, social media is like that is just, you can't do it without social media. So if you don't want to do social media, you should probably not try to do your own business unless you're just going to sell at your local fair once a year. So yeah, the social media is a huge deal. And I was going to add to that. So yes, we've increased our revenue every show, but networking, like meeting people, we find equally as valuable. So even at the show, say that we haven't done well at, we met other artists that we work with. We've met other people that have done podcasts with us. Don't be that artist that like your stuff's out here, right, and you're sitting back here.
Oh, yeah.
Right? People walk by because you don't know who's walking by. The people that want to do podcasts with you or want to do interviews with you want to know that you're going to engage them. And you can't get those things if you don't engage every person that walks by who casts an eye your direction. And so for us, it's like it's just as important as selling books. So that's almost like why we talk to people and almost get in their face, because we're like, hey, do you like to read? Well, if they do, right, we give them the book pitch. If they don't, we try to engage them on something else, like the art or whatever. And when they find out you have an engaging personality, they're like, oh, this person would be cool to interview for my whatever they have, because there's only 1 million of them out there. And it's sort of like critical mass, like how many people can you interview with that? You know what I mean? So for us, we always have an interesting story with our living in the RV. So we always, if we know somebody who we're talking to, especially, well, actually, not even people we don't know, but we try to throw in, somehow find a way to talk about that fact that we live on the road, because people are so interested in that. And so whatever your personal story is, try to make that part of when you interact with people, that give a little bit of yourself, because that's going to get you out there on social media, not just through your own efforts on Twitter or whatever. So
Yeah, and I think one part of your question was a little bit about time management. Yeah, so, and I think, you know, one thing that I have to admit is like when I left my day job and was like, woohoo, I totally binged on Netflix for like a month and just like detoxed, which was like a horrible way to start celebrating, you know, being your own boss.
Yeah.
I even watched horrible shows like Hemlock Grove, and I was like, I don't care, I'm just gonna do it. But what you have to do, what I've learned, it took me a year to learn this, so I hope you learn it much faster than me, is that if you want to create something where and you know, even going back to social media, and you just have to make a habit out of it. It's like brushing your teeth. You have to make something every day. You have to write something every day. You hear that from so many authors, that they write every day. And what they don't share with you is that 95% of what they write is horrible. You just never see it, because you have to weed through the horrible stuff that you create or write to get to the really good stuff, and you have to do it every day.
Yeah, another thing I want to speak to is time management. I've forgotten, so thanks for reminding. Is for me personally, since I do this full time, I treat it like a full-time job. I get up in the morning and, you know, do my morning routine, have breakfast, and then by no later than 8:30, I am at my crafting station and getting to work. And I work for like a solid 4 hours, and then go have lunch, give my like lunch break, and then work again until I've met like my 8 or 9 hours, depending on how much crunch time, sometimes more if I'm really behind. And then, you know, stop, have dinner, and if I have time, then I have like the evening to do whatever I want. And if I don't have time, I eat dinner and go back upstairs and work. My husband often jokes that he's going to seduce my boss to give me time off sometimes, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you guys ever run into licensing issues, and how do you handle those?
All right, can we take this one again? For the trademark issues?
I mean, I'll just say like on it, and then I'll be silent.
I don't want to stuff.
I try not to touch it. If I'm working with a gallery show, then I'll do like licensed stuff because it's on them. But I try to do all original because it's a scary gray area for me personally. And I have a lawyer.
Okay, so see, and this is, I always joke because we always get this question every panel. So I'm the one that normally takes it and I have it all prepared. Copyright law. No matter what you are creating, whether it's print, whether it's craft, whether it's whatever, if you are basing your work off of something else and you mass produce it, meaning print, I cannot sell my patterns. The moment that you don't actually do it with your own hands and you're spitting it off a machine or something else, you are breaking copyright law unless you have express permission. That's what it is. Now, there are gray areas. If you make something with your own 2 hands, commission work, crafts, things like that, you are now in the gray area if it's based off of something else and is recognizable. So the gray area is if the copyright holder sees it, approves it, likes it, you're good to go. If the copyright holder sees it, sends you a cease and desist, you stop. Because if you keep going, you are now breaking copyright law. So that's where it's the biggest thing. If you do a parody, so where your thing is not, it's kind of recognizable, but it's definitely not that main thing.
Like, for example, a lot of t-shirts and stuff that you see are joke shirts.
Yes.
Those are parodies.
Those are 100% legal. That is okay. Or if a lot of the clicks that Craft Hacker member Team Putzlow makes clicks, they actually do parodies to where it's so far off that it's recognizable, but it's not that thing. So that is 100% legal. So there's the moment that you mass produce, you've crossed the line, and just don't bring attention to yourself. So you don't get the cease and desist. But it's with my stuff, it's I try to get 100% legal. With fabric, if you deal with fabric, on the selvage of the fabric, it says for individual use only, not for commercial use. The law is, if they have purchased the rights to print that fabric, those rights are now transferred to you. So, and I see people clapping, and yes, and that's what it is. Now, they do put that on there because they don't want you to, sell it, but they can't do anything about that, basically. That's what it is, and that's what's put out there. I think that's all the copyright stuff, right? Have I hit everything? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
You kind of already segued about this earlier, but this is a question that was going to occur to me because I got a lot of writing done and got some initial buzz off of some, various publications do stuff for them, right? And there's like a progression from bigger stuff, but like you're saying, content is key. My productivity was just too low, where I had opportunities coming, but I couldn't really take advantage of them. Like I legit got a pilot request, like a TV pilot, but I didn't write the pilot. So, like I suppose this is more in the lack hacking genre, but like just general ways and mentalities, and kind of already touched on this, but to make sure you keep pumping out stuff so that when you get this, this opportunity with a guy, hey, I really like your write for us. Hey, I really like this, I really like this. You're not caught with, a portfolio with only like 4
Right.
half-inch art.
And this is good for also for paper pencil artists, or basically for anyone. You have to edit what you do, even though it's kind of the same stuff, because I've gone through and pulled out stuff and added new stuff. Because even as a writer, you change and you grow, and you really have to figure out what you want to work on. I mean, that's what I do.
The other thing I want to mention, because it kind of seemed like you're touching on it, part of it, obviously, time management. Making sure that, like I said, you have the time in the day to dedicate to something like this, because it will take over. Like she said, you have to decide what you want to sacrifice sometimes.
Yeah, you can't do everything.
Then the other thing you need to decide is,
All right, go Liz, and then we can come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to elaborate, learning how to say no, it's really hard to do, especially to people's faces. Like, I'm just like, oh, sorry. and you have to do it for you. And so that when your pilot opportunity does come up or another one comes up, then you can focus on it. And I think the key thing, especially about these shows and the people that you meet, follow up with them. I cannot tell you how many people I meet, they're like, I'm going to follow up with you, and I never hear from them. But the people that do follow up with me, yeah, I'll take the time to talk to them and give them advice. And the people that give me their cards, like I remember, four like indie comic conventions ago, like Disney's publishing company reached out to us. And you know what? I sat on it, I didn't touch it, and like I don't know why I didn't do it, but you know, it's one of those things where it's like at this point I'm just like, it was meant to be just the way it is.
I don't know, sometimes you don't want to get in bed with Disney, because I looked at their art internship program, they're like, anything you create for us, we own for forever.
Well, they produce some good books, but
this is true.
I will say that, like, you know, with those kind of opportunities, it's like, shoot, you regret it. And if I had learned how to say no and to focus and to not be shy about following up with things, then, you know, it could be a totally different situation. So just make sure you follow up with the key people, and if somebody doesn't speak to you, in terms of, like, you don't connect with them, then, you know, there will be more opportunities in the future.
I think that was part of it, with the whole saying no and prioritizing. But the other thing I was going to say, help with time management, especially with your social media stuff and keeping yourself relevant. There are different functions built into things like Facebook. I'm not 100% sure about Twitter, but I think there too, where you can have things co-post, where it's like you queue up something and it'll post to all your social media stuff. So even if you feel you can't afford the 15 minutes a day, find time on a Saturday or a Sunday and queue up stuff for the week, and then you don't have to worry about a lot of that, like alerting and stuff. And yeah, if you have a random moment to be like, haha, at whoever, totally working on this now, then great, take advantage of that too. But find little things like that to help you with your time management if you feel like that's becoming a big issue. And yeah, like she said, prioritize your projects and don't be afraid to say no to stuff.
Yeah, I think you can probably ruin yourself by, we had an artist who was supposed to do the second book, illustrated edition, and he was on board. He's like, oh yeah, I want to do this. So we gave him a book. We're going to hear from him. Or I think we did hear from him. He said he was working on it, whatever. Anyway, long story short, about a month before we were supposed to release it, we're like, where are the panels? Are they done? And he had like 2 done. And he said, you're out. So, and then we saw him just this last convention. We actually purposely put our booth like behind his. And he like apologized. He said, I just took on too much. I took on too much. You're gonna ruin those opportunities. And you could see just like look on his face that he saw the books that we had that looked really good, and he wished that he had been a part of that. And because he was poor at saying no to somebody, probably us, he didn't get the opportunity. So we don't waste time on people that don't get back to us. We just do not. We don't have time for that. We don't have time to hunt you down. So so don't be that person that has to be hunted down. And if you have too much on your plate, narrow it down. Otherwise, you're going to become that person, and then you're going to lose all of your business. So yeah, and it's Hootsuite and Buffer, I think, are the 2 that do the queue up on social media. We do that for all of our social media. We actually pay somebody to load the buffer because we don't have time to do that. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you all for the panel. It's great. I was going to ask, maybe you could rapid fire down the way and mention what software you use for your CMS for your website that you recommend, what software you use for financial management and kind of keeping track of your business, and then what's your most popular social media outlet?
All social media. I have to do everything. So I don't have one over the other. Wave apps, Nicole and I both use.
I can talk about that.
Yeah, we both use Wave apps for all of it's a free program online that actually links to your credit cards and your bank account. So anytime you swipe your credit card or you use something in your bank account, Square deposit something, it pops up and you say, yes, it's in this category. You take a picture of the receipt, fantastic, end of the year, print it out, hand it to your accountant. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a free software that was designed by accountants to help accountants. It's great. I can't recommend it enough. And you can also, they recognize that when you're starting out as a small business, your personal and your business account are kind of the same thing, until you finally get your own account, like you said last year.
And you can separate
what
them.
you can do when it loads it into Wave is it has all these transactions and you have to approve it before it does anything and moves it to a certain category. It tries to guess. It keeps telling me Michael's is like food and service. I don't know why. So I have to clarify, this is a materials cost purchase. But you can tell it if it's a personal, like you went to Panera for a sandwich that day and it's not work related at all. You can select personal, and then it'll prompt, even in personal, what does this fall under? And I think the option is like restaurants, coffee, and bar.
Yeah,
or
you can keep
something
track of
like
personal
that.
stuff.
So it'll keep track of that as well and be like, you went over your spending budget this month for your food. And I'm like, sorry, get over it.
And then for the websites, I use iPage for my Quiltioni, and I use just WordPress for the Craft Hackers. Craft Hackers is just a strict blog, and then I actually have all of the little things that I post out to are actually different things. So different, free form hosting and things like that. So just a strict WordPress.
So yeah, like I talked about, Wave is the main thing I use for accounting, and like I had told Toni about, when you do a purchase and you have it linked with a card, you can then take a picture of the receipt later, and it'll show it as a separate transaction, but then you can link back and be like, no, this receipt goes with this transaction, and when you pull it up in the history, and like you said, you can print it out and give to your account when it's tax time. These are all my purchases for this, and they'll be like, this is lovely, thank you so much. And then for me personally, like Toni, my hosting site is through iPage. I got a really great deal with them. I think it was like $50 for 3 years. I caught them for like $2 a month deal. It was fantastic. And I also just use WordPress for a free theme, and then I've used some of their other apps and widgets in there to further customize it for my gallery. I think it's an okay experience as someone that knows basic HTML coding, but I don't know a lot of dealing with like JavaScripts and Flash and things of that nature. I don't quite feel adventurous enough to really dig into like CSS coding and things like that to really customize the site to where I want. But I think that if you want the most control over your site, you're gonna need some basic like knowledge in website programming. It maybe not Flash, but at the very least like HTML and the CSS coding, and that's gonna help you get the most custom, and depending on what you want, sometimes the most professional. Depends on your vision. Don't be afraid to either make a contact with someone that does graphic design or something along those lines to help you refine it, or even hire someone.
Okay, I'm gonna try and knock down accounting, social media, and what was the third one?
Website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start off with website. We're friends with people that write code really, really well. So our friend hosts our site and designed it for us, and there are pluses and minuses to that. You can, customize things as you want, but at the same time, you don't want to bother your friend to do everything. So we kind of meet with them and do it as much as we can, and not like burden him, and also pay him. Like, just because you're friends with somebody doesn't mean you shouldn't pay them.
Yeah.
So you have to treat it like a business relationship, so we do that. And then in terms of like accounting and stuff, I'm huge on having a separate business account. Like, that's my jam. I don't want to mess with like separating stuff out. And then in terms of like tracking our payments, I have an Excel grid, like just for us, and what works for our business is that like managing the money coming in, it's kind of like we don't succeed off of like little like Etsy sells and stuff. We do more like big conventions or bigger deals with other companies, so that's kind of easier for us there. And we have an accountant. I would not survive without my accountant, because especially when you do these conventions, like the taxes are different in every region, and it gets really messed up. Like New York and Texas are very complicated. And then in terms of social media, just especially with the panel yesterday and talking to you guys there, I think it goes back to our lesson of like what to say no to. Is pick a couple of social media platforms that you feel like work really well with what you do. So if you are a very like visually based creator, then do Pinterest, do Instagram. If you are like a writer, then I would stick with like Tumblr and Twitter. And then also just keeping in mind like your demographic. So if you want to focus on Facebook, just know that you're reaching out to an older demographic. And if you want to reach out to a younger demographic, then you should do Instagram or Snapchat. So in terms of us, and what we use most, Instagram is like the best. And but that's because we're a very visual medium.
Okay, so we've been self-employed for like ever, so I always do our taxes, and it doesn't intimidate me, and all of that stuff. Just I don't know. I guess I know how to categorize expenses really well, but we do have a separate account for that, so nothing fancy there. Website, so we have a friend who does our website, so a fan, he was a friend first and is now a fan. So I'm pretty sure she uses a WordPress customizable theme. I don't do any of that stuff. I just don't, like I can figure things out, but some things I choose not to figure out because I just don't have the time. That's one of those things. So I don't do any of her website, but we use Square, and there's a way to integrate, because Square, you can have an online store through Square, and there's also a really cool thing with WordPress where you can embed your store into your WordPress site. For us, it has been amazing because all we have to do is update our Square store and it automatically updates on our website. And that is a brand new thing that we've just started, and it's just so great that people can just go to the website for everything. And we don't actually have to know anything about coding, we just have to update it on Square and it automatically goes to our website. So that is amazing. So Square and WordPress together has been just awesome. Social media. So we use all social media, like every single one. But what we do with social media is we target it. So we don't put the same posts on every single platform. So with Facebook, we do, it's basically about our family and our story and our travels. So we post videos on Facebook. We post things about like road schooling because I homeschool my older 2 children. So it's basically about us, Color Books, and the people that are involved in that project. So it's very much a story. And then for Twitter is about writing and anything writing related and marketing related goes on Twitter. And then on Instagram is purely dedicated to cosplay. So because we go to so many conventions, we take pictures of cosplay all the time. And so Instagram is just dedicated to that art of cosplay. So that's sort of a way for us to branch out and sort of have a brand in cosplay where people follow us on Instagram and then say, well, who are these people that use Color Books? And it's a way for them to link back to see how it is we end up having all of these cosplay pictures. Then was the other one. So Tumblr, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure, I think it's Instagram. One of them automatically just loads into Tumblr. Tumblr's not really something that we have, we go on specifically to update, so it just automatically links there. And then the other one is Pinterest, right? So anything sort of like geek related or like nerdy related, or we also have our tour dates on there. So Pinterest has this cool like map system where you can like put pins on the map, so people can go on our Pinterest page and see where we're going to be in the United States. So it's kind of a neat visual way for people to see our tour and to see which conventions we're going to be at. So just sort of random various things like that, geek-related, goes on our Pinterest page. We have someone manage our Pinterest page for us, and we have someone manage our Instagram page and our Facebook page for us. That's not to say that we don't put updates, so most of the videos are us, but everything else that's to sort of have regular content is done by someone else that we hire to load our buffer and keep content, or valuable content, going.
Okay, I like how the rapid fire turned into a long discussion with all of us with all this stuff. Okay, so we are out of time, so we have to get out of here so the other piano can come in. A couple of different things. We do have our business cards and our flyers up here if you want to come pick them up. If you didn't get your question answered, you still have more questions, feel free, come talk to us. We're in the Artist Alley. Rachel, Nicole, and I are in row I, and then Liz is in row F, right?
Yeah, we're on the second section of row I, so like I-13 to I think like I-7.
That whole row is Craft Hacker.
Yeah,
so come talk to us,
you'll
ask
find
questions.
3 out of the 4 of us there.
Chat with us on the way down. It's not sorry.
You weren't enough to join the whole table.
Come take all the stuff up here. We've got our stuff here for you. Thank you.
Wow, you're short.
Hey, oh, here.
No, I think we're just crazy tall. Mine's not there. Yeah, mine's not there. I'm really sorry.